envision yourself in this role at all?
No, I've been asked that many times, and that was, when you're a teacher, this is your passion, it's your love, and sometimes service calls you, and this was just one of those things that I didn't envision. To answer your question, that was not in my. It wasn't in my plans.
Service did call you.
Yes.
I mean, our country's service. Talk about that.
Yeah. So I had a military career of a parallel career of 28 years in the military, all three components: active duty, guard, and reserves. But in 2003, as when I was teaching at Clinton High School, I was called to service to Iraq. So I spent a 15-month deployment in lovely Baghdad. And then in 2012, I served a year tour in Afghanistan as a battalion commander. So
that is amazing. And of course, not only a teacher, but you were a coach as well.
Yeah. So thankfully, I had a lot of amazing people. As I always say, as a service member, and when you deploy, your life becomes easier as the service member because you have one job. That's it. But there's a lot of other people that have to support you. I always say my wife and my kids are my heroes because they picked up the slack here. Not only them, but I think of people like Brian Galusha who stepped in and he taught my classes while I was in Iraq, and I think of Ted Schultz and Jim Tyne who stepped up and coached cross country for me while I was in Iraq, and there's so many people that I couldn't have done my job without those folks. So
I saw Ted over the weekend out at Fort Dodge at the girls' state softball tournament. Good to see Ted. He did such a great job when he was in our community.
Ted's amazing. Yeah.
And I just can't imagine being away from family and friends and your responsibilities for that long of a period. How was that? It had to be mentally tough on you.
It's tough. When I went to Iraq, my oldest daughter, I only had at that time one daughter, and she was 14 months old. So when I left and I came back, and she was 30 months old, so I missed half of her life, at that point. Thankfully, though, she doesn't remember it, so at that point, it wasn't, it's more so the burden on my wife of having to be a single parent and do everything, and so I say my wife's my hero, my kids are my heroes. I couldn't have done it without them.
Again, visiting with Wes Golden, our new superintendent of schools. So how have the first few weeks gone?
Well, I haven't been fired yet, so no, I always say that tongue in cheek. This first week or the first 3 weeks plus now, it's really been important for me. Although I've been in the community for a long time, most of my life. I'm a Clinton kid. It's really building relationships. It's really and forging those partnerships so that we can move forward together as a unit. The school district can't do this alone. I've learned we're far stronger together than we are singularly. And so really I've spent a lot of time these first few weeks is meeting with folks, meeting with local officials and business partners. Hey, this is me. How can I help you? And here's some recommendations where you could help us out. Students today need a collective effort to educate them, and that's really what I've been doing the last few weeks in large part.
That's interesting. Building relationships not only with the teachers and the other instructors, but relationships with the industry leaders, the business leaders, because it seems like now more we've got the Career Advancement Center with Clinton Community College, what the high school has been doing. Of course, they always had the building trades area in the past. So, some are going to be going on to college, others are going to be going on to work.
Absolutely, and that's a key initiative for me. I've been kind of championing this the last year or so, but more so now that I have the power to really kind of say, this is what we're doing, is that work-based learning is we need our community partners to help us educate students on what it's like to be in the workforce and what are the requirements, what are the expectations. As we've built a portrait of a graduate, that was a critical component to all of this. When we had our business partners and our community partners come in and say, hey, it's really important that students today can critically think. And what does that look like? That they can collaborate. What does that mean? That they're productive and accountable, These are all parts of our porch of a graduate. And what does it mean to be productive? What does it mean to be accountable? And for me, as an educator, when you're standing in front of students, they're like, yeah, teach, that's what you're supposed to say. But when a community partner, when a student goes and works, interns, apprenticeships, job shadows with a partner, and they say, this is what productivity means in my business. It's like the student, their eyes open, because they have, I call it street credibility. The teacher, that's what you're supposed to say, but you really don't know. You've never done that engineering job. You've never worked in that industry. You're right, I haven't, but this is what I believe they're going to tell you. So those partnerships are so critical, so that's why I think it's a community effort, because when they go work with that business, that industry, that partner, they have the credibility to say, this is what accountability looks like in our business. And they're like, I better listen.
You bring up something that is quite interesting, because I, of course, went into broadcasting. I went to Iowa Central Community College, went down to Northwest Missouri State, learned the basics of what a journalism, a broadcaster should be. But I tell you, my first 2 or 3 months on the job just really opened my eyes.
Absolutely. As an educator, you go to a 4-year program, you student teach, but that's not where you learn how to teach. You learn to teach by teaching. And I think my first 5 years of teaching was my greatest educational experience to become a teacher, not the college, and, not student teaching. Those are very contrived environments. You don't, the first time a student does this thing, they don't teach you. There's no book that says, in chapter 1, this is how you respond. Or if a student doesn't get that thing educationally, there's not a chapter 4 that you can go to that says, well, this is how you respond when the student doesn't understand. You have to kind of work your way through that. And that's why these partnerships and having students go into these businesses and industries is they're getting that real life authentic experience now. Yeah. And, it was important for me, back in the 80s when I was growing up in Clinton and I got to job shadow. I thought I was going to be an engineer. That's what, I thought, an engineer, this is great. And they are. But I got to job shadow at Ralston, Purina, and I job shadowed an engineer, and I'm like, wow, this is not what I thought it was. It's not as, glorious as and glamorous as I thought engineers were. And I'm so glad I had that opportunity, because it showed me that this not, that's what this is about too. It's also helping people understand what is not in their future. We have these ideas in our mind of what it's about and what it's like. So job shadowing and apprenticeships and these partnerships are important, because it also helps our students figure out what they don't want to do as well as what they want to do.
I have a daughter who is in education, and I recall the first time that I stepped into her classroom. As a parent, I was so proud of the way that she had command of that particular room. Yeah. And I would imagine your parents were very proud of you. Did they ever get the opportunity to come into one of your classrooms?
I don't know if my parents ever did. So my mother, worked for the school district. She was the public relations director for a long time. So I bet she had been in my room. My father probably had never, he was out selling insurance or whatever he was doing at the time. But, my mom, I think is proud. And I appreciate that.
As she should be. Let's take a break for the weather. We've got much more to talk about with Wes Golden. FYI, our weather update brought to you by Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning.
Finally, some dry skies expected to return for your Thursday. We'll see partly cloudy skies and comfortable temperatures rising into the low 80s for this afternoon. Tonight, skies remain partly cloudy to mostly clear. Overnight lows will be dropping into the comfortable low 60s. With your Storm Track 8 weather impact forecast, I'm meteorologist Andrew Stutzky.
Fair skies, 70 degrees. Our update brought to you by Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning.
Everyone knows the climate changes quickly in the Midwest. Make your home comfortable all year round with Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning.
Right now, Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning offers up to $380 in rebates, plus additional incentives on a whole home comfort system from Bryant, whatever it takes.
No matter what the temperature is like outdoors, at least your home will always be comfortable when you trust Kelly.
Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning in Clinton, your Bryant factory authorized dealer.
Going to enjoy a visit with Wes Golden as he accepts his new role now as superintendent of schools at Clinton. So are you fully acclimated yet? I mean, do you understand that, hey, I am the superintendent of schools?
Yeah, it's still a little surreal in that, as we kind of started the conversation, it wasn't in my plans, but I'm so humbled and honored to be a part of it. And I mean this wholeheartedly. I'm a Clinton kid, and I have so much to thank this community and the school district because it's given me so much. It's given my family. My wife and I met in high school. She's a Clinton kid too. My kids go to the Clinton schools, and I truly, my oldest daughter graduated from UNI in 3.5 years, and I blame Clinton High. And that's a positive. That's a compliment because they prepared her. She got credit that Dad didn't have to pay for, right? But all those things, I just feel fortunate and humbled because I can hopefully give back to the community and the district something that it, at least in some, way that it gave to me.
So what have you been working on so far this summer?
Yeah, so it was really important for me to provide vision and direction to the district. So last week had a great huddle with our district administrative team and our directors, and our board has a wonderful mission statement. And I'll say it because I have it memorized. I've said it so many times in the last 7 years. It's the mission of the Clinton Community School District to educate all learners to their highest level of achievement through an engaging curriculum and a caring community. There's some really important components there. And what I wanted to do is really focus our team on those topics. And so we built a vision statement that it's empower all, future ready. And then we put some goals together on how we're going to meet that vision statement that supports our board's mission. It was a great conversation. It's a lot of hard brain work because all these personalities have their idea of what right looks like, and bringing that all together was really important. So that's a big piece.
The hierarchy of the school system is interesting. You are at the top, of course, as the superintendent, and then you talked about your administrative team, which I would imagine will be the various principals
Sure.
at the buildings like that. And each one of them, feels like that's their building,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Exactly?
Absolutely. And how do we build synergy is hard when, everybody's independent and everybody has their own free will, right? So I thought it was really important for me to provide where I see us headed and what's important to me, because quite often we're like 80% all aligned, but how do we get us all focused? And so that we're all pulling on the rope in the same direction in an effort to meet our district's mission statement set by our board. So
I would think it's easier, well, not easy, but when I was growing up, there were a number of great schools. There were 3 junior high schools,
Yeah.
and then the 1 high school. Now, of course, we have the 1 middle school, and we got, 3 grade schools?
We have 4.
4 grade schools. So talk a little bit about that, that vast number. I mean, it used to be in Clinton, you could walk to your grade school.
yeah, I did. I mean, I grew
Yeah.
up in the north end of town and went to Elijah Buell, and then I walked to Lyons, a mile both ways uphill in the snow, and I rode the bus to Clinton High. I've had, luckily, my life's experiences have afforded me opportunities like this before. When I was a battalion commander, I had 12 subordinate companies that were beneath me, and getting each of those company commanders on the same vision and board. So I've had a little bit of experience. I'm not saying it's always easy. I think about Davenport, or think about Des Moines and the number of schools that they have, and trying to keep everybody focused and pulled in the right direction it is a challenge. Every day it's something we work towards. Every day we have our moments where we have to refocus. But everybody understands what's at stake, and it's our students.
Again, visiting with Wes Golden on FYI. Let's talk about some of your value points here. Work-based learning.
Yeah, this kind of comes full circle to what we had talked about before, is how do we, this is really important to me because we understand, and it's okay, that many of our students aren't going on and getting a 4-year degree, and that's happening across the country. Students are valuing leaving high school and either going to trade school, tech school, or they're going directly into the workforce or the military. So how do we, and that's where that vision comes in, it's empowering all so that they're future ready. You know, we use these monikers before, like career or college and career ready, right? But what does that look like, you know? So this is something that's been around for a while, and I think the governor's even started using that phrase as future ready. I know in the when I served in the Guard, that was really, how do we prepare for our future? And so how do we prepare kids for their future, knowing that the vast majority of them are going to trade school, tech school, or the workforce directly? And how do we help those kids who are choosing to go to college and prepare them equally as well? So that future ready piece is important, and the supporting component that I think is so critical is that work-based learning. So coming to the porch of a graduate and getting partnerships with local businesses and industries so that our students can have those authentic work-based experiences before they graduate, so they know what it's like in the business that they think they're going into. What does it look like to be accountable? What does it look like to be productive? How do I collaborate in, you know, an industry versus at a bank? You know, those things probably look different, and that's okay. But how do we prepare students for those environments? And that's that work-based learning. To add to that is, how do we make that a 2-for-1 special? Meaning, we get that student that work-based learning experience, but also get them some credit. Meaning, can I get them, if they're, let's say they're interning at the city hall, can I get them social studies credit for that? If they're working at, you know, in a lab at, or they're shadowing at a lab at Ralston Purina, as an example, how can I get them science credit? So we're working on that, and that's our goal.
I like that 2-for-1 special. That's good. Another one of your talking points, strategic communication plan.
Yeah, you know, through the years of education and through the years of my military experience, I am keenly aware that communication and relationships are critical. So how do we strategically communicate with all of our partners, all of our key stakeholders? You know, things are different. Everybody says, oh, social media is the way to do it. Well, that's one component. But this also, you know, radio, newspaper, magazines, you know, that print is still out there. And our community doesn't, I'm not on social media. In fact, it's Wes Golden's not, you're not going to find me on Facebook. You know, you might find a Wes Golden, but it's probably not me. But so how do we hit each key stakeholder? How do we get their input and ensure that we're valuing our community and their input into this? So this is one of the things I shared with the board when I interviewed for the position, that this was important to me, and I know that many of them responded saying favorably that they're glad that I was going to take that on. So we're gonna work on this. We're gonna make this happen.
Appreciate you coming in. Final points then to talk about. Let's talk about Clinton High School construction. How's that coming along?
It's coming. So we're still in phase 2. We were hoping to have at least 2/3 of phase 2 done, meaning our CTE, you know, our welding, our wood shops, and we were hoping to have those done before school started. We were also hoping to have the music side complete so that orchestra, band, and choir would have a place to be housed. Unfortunately, we're a little behind. Still on budget, but due to, you know, this is probably one of the most complex construction projects ever afforded, you know, by our general contractor and our architect, because we're tearing down and replacing in the same location. So we'd probably be done if we would just have gone somewhere else and built, you know, right from, you know, bare ground. But so we're a little behind. The theater, our goal is right now to have it done by the winter. So we're thinking December. I'm going to say, you know, the way things are going, I'm going to go out and say February, but that's me. I'd rather have this expectation and be happy on the other end. So the hope is that through CTE and music, they'll be in their spaces in October, and we're hoping to be in the theater this winter, and then we'll start the final phase 3. So we're keeping our fingers crossed. We're still cruising along.
So what will all phase 3 entail, Wes?
Yeah, that's a great question. So phase 3 is basically removing the front of the old 1969 building and rebuilding that so that the commons area is rebuilt, and then the front will have a small, when I say small, but an appropriately sized administrative and counseling office building, if you will. And once that's done, and so really this next phase is our smallest phase, so we're hoping that kind of moves along. But weather has a say. You know, the winter is going to have a say. Supply chain has a say, but it will really, what people will start to see is the front of the building coming to full fruition.
And when it is all tied together,
Mm-hmm.
what is this campus going to look like?
It's going to look like a modern building where kids, learners can come and have some collaborative spaces, some open spaces. The theater is going to be amazing. It will be amazing. It will be, I always think of like our swimming pool. That's state of the art. Our theater is going to be state of the art. The learning spaces are state of the art. And I know it's not just the space that helps, it's the teachers, it's the relationships, it's the parents, it's everything. But it's sure nice having, you and I both kind of walk the halls of Clinton High School. So it was time. And this will be a great structure for the next 100 years.
I was a sophomore in 1969 when got the opportunity after a semester of doing some of the classes over at Washington Junior High School.
Yeah.
And of course, Jim and Shop at the Clinton High School
Yep.
had the opportunity to walk it. So it's been a while.
Yeah.
We had our 50th class reunion a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah. But one final point. Let's talk a little bit, because I felt some pride as I walked into Clinton High School, this brand new building.
Yeah.
I would imagine the students are going to feel the same when everything is done.
Yeah, when you have a space that you can be proud of and a space that inspires you to want to learn, it sure makes a difference. And I was so excited as a kid to become a River King and walk those hallways, terrified of the size of the building
Yes.
and so on and so forth. But we're gonna have state of the art when it's all said and done. From the academic wings to the theater to the music rooms to our CTE, and still maintaining your gymnasium and our fitness center with the swimming pool. We're fortunate and so appreciative of our community supporting all of that.
And you did get great support on that bond, no doubt about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the next time we visit with you would be August 15th.
All right.
School will be coming up in 8 days. We'll
Yes,
have a
sir.
lot to talk about. Another fall sports season will be upon us. And of
Yeah.
course, we're going to have the Athletic Hall of Fame and that Duke Slater thing.
Yeah, a lot going on.
That'll be great. Wes, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Love it. Embrace it. Right now.
The Dan Patrick Show.
Dan Patrick.
And I talked to a scout yesterday. He knows what he can do, and he knows what he can't do. And he's